Welcome to Visionaries Global Media, your number one source for podcasting entertainment. Visionaries Global Media, envisioning excellence on a global scale.
This is Banned from Ringside.
Tonight's on the Banned from Ringside podcast, the G1 is entering its home stretch, and we're going to talk about it. Wednesday Night Wars had a good night last night. The PWI 500 came out. WWE had its draft. That and a whole bunch more tonight on the Banned from Ringside podcast. Did you guys miss me?
Not at all.
Ditch that 9 to 5. It's time to feel alive. Hello, Mark. So welcome to the Banned from Ringside podcast. As always, I'm your host, Bill Vagey, a.k.a. Jesse, the Antibody Ventura. And over there in South City, in my neck of the woods, we have Jason Cornelius Bell. What's going on, JCB?
Allow us to bow our heads as I read from the latest edition of the Banned from Ringside podcast, volume 177, chapter 3, verse 14. And the good smart saith, hashtag who the heels. It is all good, baby. Listen, share, subscribe, repeat. Good to have my boy back. Good to have the Three Musketeers ready to roll again. The good part about that question was it was organic, and we came up with two different answers, and that's perfect. That's literally what we should have done. And it was so set up perfectly. And I like the AKA, by the way.
Thank you. And out there in Edwardsville, Illinois, we have Two Beer. Zach Pullman, what's going on, Two Beer?
I'm having my first beer since Saturday. Really kind of hit it hard on Saturday. Swore off the sauce for a minute. But, I can't be my namesake here sober. How could you talk about the WWE Draft sober?
I don't even want to talk about it wasted, but, we are going to talk about it. I'm coming at you from cloudy, cool South St. Louis. I appreciate you boys picking up the slack last week. I was in a bad spot. Your boy got COVID. I came down with COVID. I was at a super spreader event a few weeks ago. I am doing just fine, loyal listener. I feel good. My wife and I are basically asymptomatic at this point, knock on wood. But there are those that were at that super spreader event that aren't doing so well. So wear your fucking masks when you go out. It's a serious thing. It's not a hoax. Unless... well, I'm not going to say her name, but unless Aunt So-and-so is really faking it by going to the ER. So,
wow.
Which she's not. You guys know what I mean. But we got a bunch of stuff to talk about tonight. I have watched so much Japanese wrestling while I've been off this week. So much Japanese wrestling, and I'm excited to talk about the G1. Before we get too far into it, Jason, why don't you tell us about F&B Eatery?
F&B Eatery on the corner of 3453 Southampton and the Marquette, home of the best smash burger you never heard of. So let's alleviate that problem. Slide on in, grab you a smash burger on the way curbside, on the next spot to wherever you have to go, on the way home to work like I usually do, or if you have to give the gift card, grab yourself a gift card. That way you can come back at your leisure. F&B Eatery on the corner of 3453. Tell them that Banned from Ringside sent you.
Let's get it started with that. 3 counts.
1, 2, 3.
JCB, what you got?
Okay, so since we didn't talk about it, who's going to take what? And I'm usually the guy that likes to fall in the grenade. So let's fall in the grenade early. Let's talk about the WWE Draft.
Oh, God.
It'll be quick. Nobody really wants to talk about it. We'll talk about G1 for like 15 hours.
Yeah, that's true.
Deal with the worst first. That's a good strategy. Deal with the
Thank
worst
you.
first.
You're welcome, gentlemen.
I always eat my vegetables off the plate first because I want to get them out of the way. So let's take our vegetables.
All right, there we go. WWE had their draft starting off last Friday on Smackdown, falling into Monday night on Raw. Smackdown obviously had the first night of the draft. No particular, big surprises coming immediately. Drew McIntyre was the overall number 1 pick, which I kind of expected as Raw having the first pick of the draft. It kind of shows, at least my takeaway from that was it shows Vince will push whoever he wants to push whenever he wants to push that person, whether it's Becky Lynch, or in this case, Drew McIntyre. Obviously, the big surprise coming out of the Smackdown draft was the breakup of the New Day, where Xavier Woods and Kofi win the tag team titles off of Cesaro and Nakamura, and Big E had a banger of a a falls count anywhere match against Sheamus, which I wasn't necessarily a huge fan of this feud, but at least they capped it off the right way. And then the shocker of shockers happened, where they proceeded to break up the New Day. The tag champs go to Raw. Big E lands on SmackDown. So we can start right there. Knee-jerk reaction of New Day breaking up.
You asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
You
said you had a beef with it.
I don't have a beef with it. I was surprised and still am surprised. I mean, even as I think about it, but it's encouraging for this podcaster because I like the idea of them doubling down on Big E as a solo act. I mean, ultimately, that's the best move for them. I like that. I hope they don't stop, acting like Big E's not in the New Day or anything. I like the idea of the New Day not breaking up, just being on different shows. But I like the doubling down of Big E as a solo performer. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, I feel like, we already saw the push of a single star in the New Day, and while that person was still in the New Day, and it worked. It was one of the better storylines of the entire year until it ended, and then it was one of the worst. But I don't see where you need to break them up, and that's the thing. It's like this. It's like this almost infatuation, this absolute desire to break up every single successful tag team in order to create a single star, and it's symptomatic across the board. And then a lot of your
across the board in WWE or across the board in pro wrestling?
In WWE. I mean, in pro wrestling, you get the classic storyline of a successful tag team that has their run, and whenever their run starts to fade, then in order to draw more money, you do the feud, right? I mean, that's just natural. That's organic. Like, that's fine. But the luster of the New Day has never really faded. They're still one of the hottest acts in the company, and it's because of their charisma together. So I don't necessarily see Big E being more successful without the New Day on the same brand than he would, solo, than he would with them. And that's the thing. Like, I totally get it can be encouraging in that sense of, like, now we see Big E is going to be a solo act, and we've been asking for that for a very long time. But I think that he does lose something, not as part of that group, because we think of them like as a unit. And I know Bill's not too hot on Xavier Woods, but that dude's a legit star, outside of the brand too. Like, he's the most famous one outside of the company. So
he is, and
I don't know, it's weird.
And like I said to Jason last night on Twitter, just because somebody's not my cup of tea doesn't mean that I don't think that they're successful or that I don't think that they're a valuable addition to any roster. Yeah, I understand that Xavier Woods is a big star, and I understand that New Day is big stars. But, they've been together for a long fucking time. Are we looking at 7 years now with those guys, Jason?
Wow. Shit. I got my laptop in front of me. Give me 30 seconds.
Jason, what did you think about it? I'll look it up.
I was surprised. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I think the booking, having them win the titles and then breaking them up just didn't make sense. That's where I had a problem with it. Eventually the band always breaks up, okay? I don't have a problem with that. Like Two Beers said, whether it's organically through storyline or whether WWE decides, this is where the road ends.
Last week was just a taste. One of these days, Bill's going to big time us and skedaddle. So.
The New Day was formed in July of 2014, so we're looking at 6.5 years now.
Okay, so I mean, for WWE purposes, that's a long run. Okay, that we're talking DX.
The longest. That's the longest run. That's the longest run in modern WWE. And when I say modern
More so to my
WWE,
point.
I mean like 1995 on.
Right.
DX didn't
That's why
last
I
that
think
long
it was-
without breaking up.
That's why I think it was kind of a surprise where I just you knew it was going to happen, but I was waiting for it to happen organically through storyline. Like we were saying, you know, when we were in the Shock City days, what if Big E turned heel against Kofi? You know, that would be a way to break up the New Day. This was a way to do it. It just kind of felt weird because they just won the titles. Big E had a big win, so it felt like obviously this is the way they wanted to do a storyline. I just didn't agree with the way they did it this way. If you were going to break them up, have like eternal strife, you know, something we'd never seen from New Day before. It was a shock. I'm not even going to lie. I'm still not convinced that this is the end of New Day as we know it. Somehow, some way, I think it continues. I'm just not sure how it does.
Well, it's not like they really adhere to the brand split all that much anyway.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not like
Exactly.
Kofi and Xavier. Like, if Big E ends up having some big title shot at some point at a pay-per-view, it's not like Xavier Woods and Kofi can't come down to the ring with him.
Exactly.
And also,
So-
they're not even touring on separate brands now. Like, so like the idea
Right.
of a brand split is like just the whole general idea of this entire thing is just completely silly because they're all just in the same town right now anyway.
Right.
Like,
Well, no,
it doesn't even matter.
And
No, go ahead. And
I was
going
going
to
to say, and also, why is anybody with a title able to be drafted? Like, I don't know. The whole thing about Raw or SmackDown drafting somebody that's already on their squad or already on their show makes no sense to me. The draft is, A, it's stupid. B, it really only produced two kind of, moments, and that was Big E in the New Day, and the other one being Seth Rollins going to SmackDown.
Okay, I'll just say this. I agree with what you guys are saying, that the brand split doesn't make sense, just in the sense of how they operate it, and titles, booking, the whole shebang. The reason why they're doing it titles-wise is because you just have two shows. I don't think that – would it make sense to marry the tag team titles and have one set of tag team champions? Yes. When they were switching the titles in between – yeah, it would. They don't have a tag team division on either show. I mean, the Street Profits are the longest reigning Raw tag team champions. Wrap that around your head.
Since when?
Of all time.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
Why do they keep saying it, Bill? It's over 200 days all the time. They've hammered it home.
They've had it for 200 days?
Go back and watch any Raw within the last 2 months.
Please don't make me.
Okay, that's my point. They
Okay.
have done this for a reason, because you have two shows. The logical way to go about it would just have one set of champions, because the tag team division on either show isn't that deep. So just have one set of champions like you do with the women's titles and go that route. The reason why they have two titles is they have two shows.
I'm one of the few voices out there that says the more titles, the better in WWE, because there's so many fucking wrestlers that they have. I know that everybody disagrees. I know that a lot of people disagree with that. I stand by it. Zach, what did you think about Seth Rollins going to SmackDown? Any thoughts?
I did think it was funny that they just like moved the whole feud over. It was almost like Fox was like had been watching Raw and they're like, "Hey, we want that act," and they're like, I don't know, and they're like, "We're giving you a lot of money," and they're like, "Yeah, okay." I don't really see any other like reason. Like, although Rollins has been a Raw guy for a very, very long time, so I mean, when it comes to stuff like that, did Reigns move to Raw? No. Okay. So, I mean, that's kind of fun, right? Especially if you want to, like, you know, you finish up with this Ray Dominic thing, because, I mean, honestly, it's been quite a while. It's been recycled. And Roman is the best he's ever been. And
Agreed.
Seth is arguably the worst he's ever been, like, character-wise. So having him do something with Roman could really kind of give like his character a kick in the ass. Like we all know Seth Rollins is great at what he does, but just like what he's working with right now, I mean, I don't know. Do you guys disagree? Like I don't really like this character at all. I think it's the worst Seth Rollins we've ever seen.
I'm not a huge fan, to be perfectly honest. I don't like the Rey Mysterio thing needs to end at some point, and that's why I was hoping that's where the brands or the draft would go ahead and separate them, so then Seth can kind of, if you want to do this Messiah thing, that's great, take Murphy with him, but it's time to separate this feud program, whatever you want to call it. I wasn't a big fan of the character. I'm not a big fan of the feud. I get it. I mean, Dominic is getting over. I mean, that's great for him. But I mean, everybody else just feels like this is kind of a stagnant program that's really not doing much except for getting Dominic over, which is great, good for him. But everybody else just feels like they're just going through the motions.
Yeah, I mean, I'm done with the feud. I'm cool with the Monday Night Messiah character, though. I'm just a big fan of Seth Rollins as a heel. I know that you guys are too. I know that's not what you're saying, but I can't see Rollins turning face to have a feud with Roman quite yet. Maybe I'm wrong. I can't see it. I think the only other big one, I'm looking through the lists right now. By the way, when we talk about the draft being dumb, Retribution's whole thing is trying to bring the WWE down, so I guess it's a good thing that Ross snagged them. The other thing is that
like George Bush, like drafting Al-Qaeda.
Yes, exactly. Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, goes to Raw. They split up Andrade and Garza. Andrade, it says, is undrafted, so that is fucking strange to me if they're going with Garza over Andrade, just because I think they're both great. I like Andrade more. What do you think about the Fiend being on Raw? And then we can move on, unless there's more that you guys got to talk about. Zach, what do you think about the Fiend being on Raw?
I mean, I feel like a kind of face Fiend works better, just because, like, if your whole gimmick is to no-sell and kill everybody, like, that works better as a face. Just because he legit, like, killed Seth Rollins as a babyface. Like, we talk about this Monday Night Messiah character, I did, like, saying it's the worst it's ever been. It only exists because the Fiend killed Seth Rollins' babyface run. He literally made him cry on TV, and then he got DQ'd in a Hell in a Cell, which we're at that 1-year anniversary, just about, of, like, 2 DQ finishes in a Hell in a Cell. So, I mean, this shit's been bad for a while. But if you're gonna be, and the Fiend's been like, he's over to a degree. Like, the Firefly Funhouse stuff is really good. The matches have not been great, but I think it's because of the dynamic. But if you flip him face and he's crushing heels, then that's cool. Like I'm a little bit more behind it. So
he's got to stop wrestling in the mask.
You think so?
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off, Jason. What do you think about the Fiend going to Raw?
No problem with it, but I'm sorry. I cannot wrap my head around the quote unquote Fiend being a face concept. That I said it last week, and I'll hammer it home until they show me otherwise. When you set up people to get jumped, like they have done in the last 2 shows on SmackDown and Raw, that's heel shit. I'm sorry. Now, if you want to flip him to be a face, that's something totally different. But as far as I'm concerned, right now, as we stand, he and Alexa Bliss, they are both heels. I like the pairing. Now, whatever you do with them, that's fine. But as long as you've already opened this box, so you got to stick to this box, at least for a little bit. I thought they dropped the ball when they had the chance to kind of do that with the swamp fight between Strowman and Bray Wyatt. I like this parents to just keep it going, but the concept of the Fiend being a face at this point right now is just unfathomable. Just leave it alone. Let Alexa Bliss kind of develop into this new character. Play off that. Face Fiend just doesn't work for me. I'm sorry. That it didn't even make sense.
Any other final thoughts on the draft? Okay, let's get in some fun stuff. Let's get to that 2 count.
Shit. You're welcome, by the way.
2 beer, what's that 2 count?
Oh yeah, thank you very much. That's a sincere thank you for making me be able to choose and not have to talk about the WWE Draft.
I have a feeling you would have chosen the Wednesday Night Wars anyway.
Oh yeah. That was the backup. But yeah, we are all the way up to the finals of the G1 Climax 30, guys, and it has been a really fun time. This is every year I'm like, is this the best G1? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe. I think it might be the best G1. And coming into it, I was like, not like crazy hopeful, right? We're in a pandemic, things are weird, but this has been great. And it's so I feel so privileged to pay $10 a month to have the best in ring wrestling every day. And I mean, I'm busy some days, so it's almost like every day I wake up and there's this awesome show to watch. And if it's not an A block show that's amazing, it's a B block show that's really good. And so anyway, here's as the results stand. We can talk about the matches. I'll have maybe Bill can touch on the matches that he wants to talk about since he's been watching so much. But here's the stands and here's my predictions. So right now in the A block, we've got sorry, my notes straight here. We've got Jay White, Kota Ibushi, and Kazuchika Okada tied at 12 points, and Will Ospreay with 10 points. So in the finals night, we have two of those people going against each other. So we have Will Ospreay and Kazuchika Okada. So here is the order of the matches, and here's where I think they're going to break down. So first, and this is on New Japan's website, they have the order of the matches. So part of that is why I picked the way that I did, because they tell you what the order of the card is, right? So I have Will Ospreay beating Okada, and that puts all 4 of them at 12 points. Right, so Ospreay, Okada, Ibushi, and Jay White, all at 12 points. And at that point, Ospreay has a tiebreaker over Okada and Jay White, but he lost to Kota Ibushi. So that's his hang-up. Ibushi loses to Taichi, who's been a spoiler here, had a really good G1, and that keeps him at 12 points and tied at the top 4. Ibushi has a tiebreaker over Ospreay and Okada. The only guy that he has lost to out of those 4 is Jay White. Finally, in the main event, Jay White loses to Ishii, keeping him at 12 as well and tied with the top 4. Since he has a tiebreaker over Ibushi and Okada, Okada is then out because he's lost to all 3 of those guys. So of the top 4, White, Ibushi, Okada, Ospreay, Okada has lost to all the other 3. So he's out, and there's a 3-way tie for A block. That's my prediction.
And then who goes to the final?
Ibushi. Ibushi wins the 3-way and goes to the final.
Ibushi wins the 3-way because of tiebreakers and goes to the final.
Yes, and I feel like Bill likes this because there's a 3-way involved. And I also spent a lot of time on it.
They're not wrestling, man.
I spent a lot of time.
I disagree with that prediction. I want to hear Jason's prediction first. And then we'll go through some matches. Or then we'll just go through some overall grades.
Real quick, I'll go through my B block real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Naito loses to Kenta, keeping him at 12 because we have Naito and Evil tied at 12 with Sonata at 10. So Naito loses to Kenta, keeping him at 12, tied with Evil, and then Sonata's right behind there with 10. And Naito has lost to both of those guys, so he does not have a tiebreaker with either one because he lost. And then Sonata will beat Evil because that's the main event of the night. So in the main event, Sonata will beat Evil, ties the 3 of them at 12, and Sonata wins the block because he has beat both of the other 2. And then it's an Ibushi versus Sonata G1 final, and Ibushi takes the entire thing, and it's Ibushi Naito at the Tokyo Dome, which sounds so sexy. And I said I never wanted to see that match again, but it's been so long that I want to see it again, even if they die.
Somebody might. I was going to say somebody might die. Jason, what are your thoughts on Zach's predictions? Do you agree, disagree?
I agree with the B block side, especially now to the fact that, and I said it when we first said, when we got the G1 and how it's going to break down, I thought Naito and Kenta would mean something at the end. It means a little less than I thought because Kenta's been losing left and right, but it's going to matter because Naito would have to lose. I totally agree with that. I mean, Naito doesn't have to win the block. I mean, he's double champion. His path is set. We just got to figure out who his opponents are, and two of his possible opponents are two guys that have already beat him in Evil and Sonata. Now, what I want to happen is Evil to beat Sonata to set up my dream G1 final, and I'll jump to the A block in a second. What will happen, I agree with Zach, that Sonata will beat Evil to win B block. Now jump to the A block. There's no reason for me in the world to jump off Jay White now at this point. He's got a couple of tiebreakers over who's that, Ibushi and Okada. Ishii is not going to be easy to get by, but I think he wins that clean. Well, not clean, but he wins it to win the block. So, like I said, for me, the dream match, because they've been teasing it, especially after Takahashi didn't fall down to Jay White in one of the G1 matches, the dream for me would be Jay White versus Evil, Battle of Bullet Club. What I think is going to happen is Jay White versus Sonata. In that scenario, I'm taking Jay White. So Jay White and Naito at Wrestle Kingdom is my prediction.
Man, I like both of your predictions better on paper. Unfortunately, I don't agree with either of them. So just to be clear, I haven't looked at the match order for the A block final. So you're saying that Okada's last match is against who?
It's Ospreay. So here, the 4th, 5th, and 6th match of the finals night is Ospreay, Okada, Ibushi, Taichi, Jay White, and Ishii in that order.
Oh, I think that Okada is... They've been telling the strangest story with Okada. And I'm starting to get on board, but you guys know what I'm talking about. We've talked about it before. It's almost like Okada's whole point is to try to get the money clip over. He's been having... His matches have gradually gotten better over the course of the G1. They're trying to present him as being in a funk, I guess. And he's trying to get the money clip over. And he's been teasing the wrist control, the Rainmaker. What I think happens against Ospreay is that Okada finally busts out the Rainmaker, takes out Ospreay, and Ishii is going to beat Jay White, and Okada is going to win the A block. That's my prediction. My prediction for the B block is really boring. I think that Evil goes over. I think that Evil goes over Sonata with a bunch of bullshit with Dick Togo. They've been telling the story that it seems to me that that Evil really can't win without Dick Togo. I don't want to get myself in trouble here. Evil has had Evil matches have been really boring, if you ask me, over the G1. And I told you, I've watched a lot of G1 matches in the last few days. I mean, 35 G1 matches in the last 4 days or something. And Evil matches...
He doesn't gain anything by having the interference in Dick Togo. Like, it doesn't generate heat. It just generates, like, apathy with his matches. Because he's had better G1s in every other G1 that I've seen him in.
Totally agree. And when I watch an Evil match, when I've been watching Evil matches this last week, it's kind of like, well, just get me to the end, because I know that Togo's going to get involved, and I know that it's going to be a bullshit ending. And the matches, to me, aren't compelling enough in the first 15, 20 minutes to get me to that ending. So I've kind of been down at... There's a couple other guys that I've been down on, too. There's a couple guys that I think have been having great G1s that I didn't expect. I'm looking at you, Goto, but but I still think that it's going to be Okada versus Evil, and I think Okada goes over. That's my prediction.
Dude, I tell you what, I love that all three of us had very different responses to this, and all three of them sound awesome, and all three of them were like totally plausible. And even though like it crushes my dream, like my whole thing was I wanted a Bushi versus Tanahashi, which is impossible at this point. I thought that was going to be the best story. All three of the scenarios like sound great. Like this is so cool.
No, I would love to see Ibushi versus Tanahashi just for the story that was being told leading up to this. I got to disagree a little bit on Evil and a lot bit on Goto. Goto has been consistently solid. As long as we've watched G1s, whether it's 3 years, 4 years, whatever, whenever we started, Goto has always had consistently good / great matches. So I don't get where maybe it's just you and you're just now jumping on board, but Goto is quietly consistent. He's like Randy Orton to me. He's so good that he doesn't. I don't even think he knows how good / great he really is, and he has great matches.
If Ishii didn't exist,
then yeah,
if Ishii didn't exist, Goto would be the Ishii.
I agree with that totally.
All I'm saying is that he's not mentioned very much on this podcast, and when you think of the G1, he's not in the higher half of guys that you think about. He kind of flies under at least he flies under my radar. Maybe that's just me. I'm just saying that after watching as many matches that I've watched over the last few days, I thought Goto Tanahashi was fucking great. Love that match. I love the story. I love the story that Kevin Kelly was telling about them being young lions together and them having they had crazy chemistry. Goto goes over. It was a really fun match. That's all. I mean, I just think that now, are you pushing back on Evil having boring matches? Because
a little bit, because the story that is being told are two totally different stories. Up to this point, it was Evil. Will Evil break out? Can Evil be the next breakout star of LIJ? If he does, will they break up LIJ? Shit like that. Okay, now we're telling a different story where, like it or not, it feels like Evil can't get the job done without Togo. In the biggest moment against Naito, he lost the double championship when LIJ came in and basically, saved the day or whatever the case may be. I don't necessarily like the story, but the matches don't feel that much different. It's just the story that's being told to me is being different.
Maybe I'm just not that big of an Evil guy then. Zach, where do you fall on this?
Yeah, I think, it's the interference. Like, it's not quite as good as... Maybe it's just Evil's not quite as good at being a heel as Jay White. Because...
Okay, that's what I was going to say. What's the difference? It's both Bullet Club. They both doing the same thing. It's just the guy that's doing the interference is just a different guy.
For some reason, it doesn't wear on me as much whenever it happens with Jay White. And maybe it's because Jay White brings more of a star quality, more of a big-time feel. Maybe it's just like his dynamic in the ring. I don't know. Like, Evil has always been one of the...
Sorry, Jay White's heel persona, though, is like maximalist, though. Like, he's so over the top. He's so pro wrestling to me. And really, the only sense that I get that Evil's even a heel is that Dick Togo's hanging out on the outside.
Yeah, I feel like it is partly that, and I know like there was a time whenever LIJ were heels, but you'd hardly know it because it was like, they're so over with the fans, and they're like the NWO, right? It's just like, yeah, they're heels, but like everybody loves them, so like it doesn't really matter. But I just feel like it doesn't wear on me as much, and I feel like Evil's had a tough year because this was supposed to be like his breakout year, like. Obviously, right? I mean, like, he took the double championship from Naito. He ran with it for a while. It wasn't just because of the pandemic that he did that. I mean, like, obviously they had plans for Evil. It just doesn't click with me. And I liked Evil before. I liked him more before he was a bigger star, which is weird.
Okay, Mark, any other things to say? Sorry, Jason, any other things to say about Evil?
I was going to say, we haven't even talked about Naito yet. You don't get to call me a Mark. No, I think that Ito...
I have some thoughts on Naito, too.
You can think what you want, man. Double champs in the house. The story, the booking is fine. The storyline is what I don't necessarily like right now. When this is over, if and when he and Jay White cross paths, now we're talking.
So speaking, okay, let's. I'm going to name some guys. I want you to give me a letter grade about how you would give their G1 thus far. And let's try not to get too marky about this, but, I mean, give me your honest opinion. I'm going to ask Tai Chi, Jason.
It's got to at least be a B plus. I mean, Tai Chi's had some of the best matches. He beat it. Suzuki is still the standout of his G1 as far as I'm concerned. It's got to at least be a B plus.
He also beat Shingo, which was also a really good match. Zach, what do you think?
As soon as you said it, I thought B plus. That was I'm like doing like one of those Rorschach image things. Like you say it, and I'm just going to go with my immediate response.
That's what Regis says. Go with your gut.
Amen.
What about Jeff Cobb? Zach?
A minus, and I feel like that's because he is overachieved. He came in second G1, and he really had some super banger matches, including that Ishii match, which was out of this world. The Okada match was really good a couple weeks ago, and then this Ospreay match that he just had was bonkers good. And he came on top of a couple of those, right? Like, you know, he's really like, not only is he performed, but he's won. And I know that that's kayfabe, but like they obviously have enough faith in him to where like he has like this really good record. He was almost like he's in the A block with all of these legends and all of these like amazing performers, and he is like right below the guys that are like still in it, right? Like he's right there. So I got to give him a higher grade. He gets a little bit more.
What do you think, Jason?
I like the way they've pushed Cobb, especially like Tubir said, he's gotten some big kayfabe wins in the G1. Overall letter grade, B minus. It feels like still something's missing. I like where we're going. It's way better than it was last year.
Something's missing in what, though? I mean, he's a mid-carder in the G1. He's holding his own in matches. I'm with Zach. The Ishii match was incredible. Like, I think I made fun of Cobb a couple weeks ago for looking strong but not really being strong. Totally wrong. Hey, Bill, from 3 weeks ago, you fucked up. You were totally wrong because Jeff Cobb was literally tossing Ishii around.
Right.
He threw him 3/4 of the way across the ring on a belly to belly.
Yes.
And I was like, holy shit.
Yes.
He's been tossing. He tossed Okada around. He tosses everybody around.
I mean, my poor wife, who's been stuck in the house with me while I've been watching all this Japanese wrestling, she was watching that match with me, and she was like, holy shit, because Ishii, I mean, even for her who doesn't, oh, by the way, she loved Yano Naito, but Cobb, like,
don't make me kick over my coffee table.
But Cobb Ishii was what you want from two heavyweights that look like that. It was a compelling match that featured a lot of good selling on Ishii's part. I know we've sang his praises here before, but Cobb also had a great match with Ospreay where they told a really good story where Ospreay was trying to use his speed against Cobb, and he was staying on the outer edges, and Cobb eventually went over. I would give Cobb an A minus. Especially after last year, which wasn't really the strongest G1 showing. You can tell that he learned something from it and has been great. What you guys think about Jay White versus Suzuki last night or a couple nights ago? I'll let you go. Go ahead, Zach.
I mean, any Suzuki match like this year has been fantastic, and I love the whole. Like, I feel like Jay White is kind of like at his best whenever he's facing like a legit tough guy, because he's so good at like being this like kind of a pussy heel, but like he's like no slouch, right? Like, I mean, the guy's like jacked, Like, he looks better than he's ever looked in his whole life. But he just kind of chooses to be a chicken shit, like kind of as slow as he possibly can, like grabbing Red Shoes and like pulling him in front of him, like so that Suzuki can't get to him and shit. It's so good. Like the way that they can tell these stories with like incorporating each person's like personality and individual style. Like I really like that match.
What you think, Jason?
No, chicken shit heel was the term that I had in my head, and Two Beer kind of stole it or whatever. But it's like I said last week. This is heel versus heel when you stay to character. Suzuki wasn't being a face. He looked around, grabbed the chair, whacked Jay White with the chair. Red Shoes came up. It wasn't like Red Shoes, he was going to stop because Red Shoes was there. Red Shoes had to physically take the chair from Suzuki. Otherwise, he was going to whack Jay White again. Chicken shit heel is Jay White's like comfort zone. And we can see that because that's what he does best. But I think that's what gets him the most heat. He looks the part, but he plays scared, gets Gato involved, and wins matches. Like I said, to me, it's no different than Evil. It's just who is getting involved, I think, is ultimately the difference.
All right. I want to tell you, kind of piggybacking off this, two of my favorite matches or moments of the G1 thus far. I loved Suzuki Ibushi because Suzuki was the story that they were telling was that Suzuki was trying to lure Ibushi into just this hard hitting, let's beat the shit out of each other match.
Come on outside the ring.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck?
Ibushi was trying to have like a technical match or whatever, and then they ended up just beating each other up. And then when Ibushi knocked Suzuki out, Suzuki got knocked out with that big smile on his face, which I appreciate so much. It was so good. And really, when we talk about the G1 and we say that, or when I say that it's the actual WrestleMania, it's because what we've been talking about, these guys are telling stories over multiple weeks and they each have their own thing. You remember at the beginning when Tai Chi was acting like, he's like, hey, I'm a new Tai Chi. I'm not here to try to cheat anymore. And then once he started losing, he started cheating again. And then you have Suzuki, who's trying to make, he's 52 years old or 53 or whatever, and he's trying to get these young guys to fight him on his level. And then when Ibushi does and knocks him out, Suzuki gets knocked out with that big smile on his face. And then I know it's not the technical masterpiece that some people are looking for, but Jay White versus Takahashi Yujiro, where the deal was made where Takahashi was just going to lay down for him, and Jay White covered him up, and he wouldn't cover him, and then Takahashi starts kicking out of it. That was legit funny to me.
Oh, shit.
Dude, that entire night, that card was better than most takeovers. Like, if I wanted to show, just one show to somebody who'd never seen New Japan before, like a Wrestle Kingdom might be too much, they're 4.5 hours long. Some of the other stuff, you got those mixed tags and stuff earlier, but as far as a 2.5 hour show with an intermission for cleaning the ring and stuff, this is the card that I would show them, because you got Cobb versus Ishii, which we already said was awesome.
Right.
White versus Takahashi, which has some comedy to it that is genuinely funny.
But then you really started rooting for Takahashi too. You were like, "Oh, roll him up, motherfucker!"
I thought they were gonna fuck with my bracket. I'm like, dude, what the fuck is going on?
Ospreay versus Taichi, which was great.
Yes.
I mean, that was phenomenal. And then, like you said, Ibushi versus Suzuki, which is one of the best matches in G1 history. And then you got Okada versus Shingo, where Shingo, of all people, actually got the money clip over. His eyes were bugging out of his head.
Shingo sold it like a motherfucker.
Shingo is, I'd say, MVPs of this G1. It's probably Ishii and Shingo 1 and 1A. These guys are world class, and so I think about this sometimes, and there's a lot of people on Earth that smoke weed, right? There's a lot of people on Earth that watch wrestling. But there's very few people comparatively that like watch New Japan, and like if you're like a weed smoker, like the guys that watch New Japan us, you're like those guys that have those wax dabs and they've got like this like science experiment with like these Tesla coils and shit, and they're like melting the wax on the coils. Like that's us when we watch like Japanese wrestling. Like this is a niche product, right? It's a very niche thing.
Yes.
But it is just like those guys that have those science experiments. Like I've never done one. If you got them, give me a call. I'd gladly come over, but I ain't got the money to invest. But like I would so love to see, obviously like it's good, right? Like it's fantastic. It's just like a very niche product. But if I would want to show someone this niche thing, it would be this card, right? It's got everything you want.
It's got everything you want. It's got the comedy. It's got the heavy hitters. It's got the technical skill. It's got, and like I said, my wife was sitting here watching a lot of it or not a lot of it, but some of it, and she was like, "This doesn't look like the WWE at all." And I'm like, "Yep, I know. This is like it's this whole other thing, and it really is. It's the same sport kind of, but it. I mean, they might as well be two different sports, though. We have to talk about this before we get out of the G1 conversation. My boy fought Jason's boy last night, Naito Yano. What did you think about it, Zach? Fuck you, Jason.
Right.
I gotta say, I'll be brief because I know you guys have more to say, but I loved this match because it was like an actual role reversal. We got like Yano doing the whole Tranquillo roll, but instead of like laying down and raising his fist, he does his like shrug, like he does the roll, and then he does like the Yano shrug.
Oh my god, that cracked me up.
I lost
so pissed,
and
dude, I was
just
so
like
pissed.
the whole thing, like it dragged on, but it didn't like. So the Yano Kenta match, the block night before, was miserable, right? It dragged on, and these guys are just like killing me.
Yeah, it wasn't good
because nobody's doing anything. But like Naito's whole gimmick is that it takes him forever to like start a match. Like you can seriously like go from Yano's or you can go from Naito's entrance to the beginning of the match. You can skip like 5 to 7 minutes before, if you're trying to save time.
Yeah, he's like Taker.
Yeah.
Whoa, hey.
He might be worse. Even Kevin Kelly goes, he can't remember how buttons work.
Hey. We don't have that blasphemy around here. Now, you wait till I'm off this pod.
Anyway, it was just a total role reversal. It was a lot of fun. We had Yano doing Naito stuff. We had Naito doing Yano stuff. I loved it. Obviously, of course, I would have loved it more if the math would have worked out and Yano would have went over just because Jason would have went apoplectic.
Oh, that's what I was hoping for, man. That's what I was hoping for. Jason, what did you think of the match?
No, I thought it was funny because it played up to Naito, Tranquillo, the whole just chill out type shit. Yano was already ready to go by the time he was getting in the ring, and it was classic Naito. I'm going to take my time. And it's not like he hasn't done this before. This is his thing. It's just now it was going to take him even longer because he could see that Yano was all hyped and ready to go. From that point, it's the usual fuckery from Yano. I was really trying to figure out if this was going to be the loss that I thought it was going to be, because I'm not even going to lie. In my head, I made sure I didn't see what was going to happen beforehand. In my head, I had this already marked that this was going to be a loss. When he did the roll and he came up with the Yano shrug, I'm like, motherfucker. I'm like, this is that bullshit. My boy's getting ready to lose. I was literally losing my shit at like 8:30 in the morning when I was watching that shit. Dude. It was good, man. I mean, it got me emotionally invested, and that's all I ask for matches, is to get me emotionally invested. A huge sigh of relief when Naito won. But yeah, it was better than I thought it was going to be, because with my bar with Naito or with Yano is very, very low to begin with. The chemistry was good. I can't lie.
The thing that I love about Yano matches is that everybody buys in. Whoever he's fighting, they're like, yeah, fuck it. I was trying to explain this to Aaron. I was like, So this guy, he's hilarious. Jason hates him, right? So this is Jason's boy that he's fighting, but everybody always tries to have a good comedy match with him. And the line that really got Aaron was Kevin Kelly did a great job on this match, by the way. But when I forget the young lion's name, but when he took him through the bar.
I was going to say that was Suji or whatever.
Suji, yeah. And when they were in the ring. And Kevin Kelly goes, Naito all of a sudden remembers that tape can be removed, which was really good. I had a lot of fun with that. That match was a lot of fun. Like I was laughing really hard. My wife was laughing really hard. It's a good Yano matches are good palate cleansers on the card, and he's good at what he does. When he came up, when Kevin Kelly was like, is he going to do a suicide dive or whatever? And he did the roll and then the Yano shrug. I legit cackled. That was hilarious to me.
I was so fucking. I can see it right now. I close my eyes and I see it right now, and I still get heated. Fuck that dude.
Yeah, I mean, I also liked it as a Naito match because it wasn't a Naito match that took 20 minutes to get warmed up and then just had Kevin Kelly yelling Destino for the last 7 or 8 minutes.
Dude, I love Kevin Kelly. That bit is a little overdone. Like, I think he's probably the best announcer, like, right now, like, working. And I'd say Excalibur is probably, like, right underneath of him. But, dude, the Destino, like, I was watching this with my wife, and I forget what night it was, but it was one where it went extra long, and she was just like, I can't believe you fucking watched this shit. And I was like, oh my God.
You know what's funny, Zach, is that our wives are basically the same age, and they're cousins. So do you think when they were like 8 or 9 years old and they were talking about their weddings and their future husbands that they ever imagined that both of them would host a wrestling podcast together and subject them to New Japan Pro Wrestling?
No, like my wife, I didn't
several times a summer.
We got together. I was on hiatus, like from wrestling whenever we got together. So she's like, you didn't like disclose this to me. Like,
yeah, you tricked her into it.
Like, I tricked her into it, yeah. But she
That's
didn't disclose
great.
to me that she would, like, you know, turn off the sex faucet like after a few years. So it's okay. we're at an even trade.
Wow, that just happened.
He's heating up.
no warning signals. No, don't enter sign.
That is so funny. Zack Sabre Jr. Any thoughts? I think that Kenta's had kind of an underwhelming.
Is he alive?
Yes, he is. Technically, he's still alive.
Did you guys see that power bomb? Because
yes.
Like, if you didn't see it, like, you wouldn't even know. But like his neck, oh my God!
I'm surprised he's still even.
Oh, from Juice, you mean?
Yeah, from Juice. Yeah, it was like a Styles Clash power bomb. Like Zach had his chin back instead of his chin forward. So, I mean, that's where he screwed up. But dude, like, I mean, he could have broken his neck. I mean, I know he does a lot of yoga and he's vegan and stuff, but Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say that's pushing it right there.
I tell you what, I didn't know he
made it out in one piece.
I didn't know he was vegan, but now that you tell me he's vegan, it's like, of course he's vegan. That dude hasn't eaten meat in forever. Dude weighs like 120 pounds.
Tie your ass up like a pretzel.
Any other thoughts on the G1 before we move on?
Who does Takahashi wrestle in the final night? That's my last question, because that's the last little.
Because you want to see if he gets a win?
Yeah, because I mean, has anybody gone
Jeff
the whole?
So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he ain't winning that. Damn.
No, he could win
Okay.
that. He could win that.
Solo without interference?
I mean, it's the G1. Weird stuff happens. I'm rooting for Takahashi. I think that he's been really good, and I would like to see him get the win. Or it might be cooler if he doesn't get the win. I'm sure there's somebody that's had 0 points eventually, right? Or in the past.
It's got to be. I was getting ready to say that would have to be looked up, but I'm rooting for Takahashi against Jeff Cobb. I like Jeff Cobb. I want him to get pushed, but Takahashi's one of those guys that help bridge the gap between them coming back and where we are now. I would like to see him get rewarded with a dub.
Put it on the record. BFR is pro Takahashi.
1, 2, 3.
So, Zach just brought up the idea that we might have to do a G1 do-over sometime, and that sounds like a ton of fun to me. But for the 3 count, we are going to talk about the Wednesday Night Wars. Now, before we get into the Wednesday Night Wars specifically, we had a bit of an argument on Twitter last night while we were watching Dynamite / NXT. It was the 1-year anniversary of AEW Dynamite starting, and a loyal listener, M-Dub Seals, asked us what kind of letter grade would we give it. Jason gave it, I think, a D or D plus or something.
Joker.
No. As I say, if you're going to bastardize my name, at least do it right.
Jason, you gave it a B minus. Zach and I were on the same. Zach, I think, wanted to give it an A. You know what? Let's just talk about it. Go ahead, Jason. What grade would you give it, and your reasoning for giving AEW the 1-year grade?
I'd say it a B minus, and I'm sticking to it.
Dig those heels in.
When the women's division is this bad, you just can't give it an A. You just can't. Okay? We're forgetting about some of the things that just happened to this women's division. Anybody remember the Nightmare Collective? I do. Okay? I had to go dig them up to find out about it, but that wasn't necessarily a great storyline. Britt Baker, the first women's signee for AEW. How many title matches has Britt Baker had? 0.
Well, she's been injured.
0.
She's been injured.
Okay? Come on, man. Chris Statlander's had 2 title matches, and she's injured. Britt Baker's had none?
To me, when I say
the talent that's left. Look at Kylie Ray. Kylie Ray's killing it in Impact right now. They couldn't keep Kylie Ray. They couldn't get Kaylee Ray.
When I say let's give AEW a grade for their first year in business, and the thing that you focus on is Chris Statlander and Kylie Ray and Britt Baker, that's fucked up to me. I think that you're focusing on the wrong thing.
We could talk about the rankings if you want to. That was one of the biggest things that I had an interest in coming in, that they were going to have rankings, that it was going to be important. Those rankings don't mean shit. It becomes up when they want it to come up.
Well, yeah, sure.
But when it actually does come up, it actually matters because the people that win titles are on actual winning streaks and or undefeated streaks. And like even Lance Archer, who had a title match on their 1-year anniversary, has only lost 1 time.
Zach, why don't you give it a grade?
I gave it an A. I would have given it an A plus if not for the women's division. But part of the women's division is not their fault. It's the pandemic. Like most of their women's talent is tied up overseas, and that just is what it is. I think if they did simpler matches with the women that they have, because they're not as experienced as a lot of the male talent, if they just did simpler matches that were, i.e., squash matches, or not like these really complicated matches like the Sheeta Big Swole match, on the anniversary show. Not good, but could it have been better if it was just a simpler match? Absolutely. But the reason I give it an A is this is every week the absolute number 1 show that I look forward to. It is one of the best shows of like 2-hour wrestling I've ever seen in my life. It reminds me of 1995, 1996 WCW Nitro, which was bonkers good. The storytelling is great. It's actually better than those the NWO like shows. It is fantastic. It's either like really good or fantastic. And honestly, like I don't even care about the women's division. They could get rid of it. Like I like New Japan. They don't have women. Like it's fine. Like they want to do it because they want to do it. It's not like a necessary thing. Like I don't know. The pay-per-views, I mean, I don't pay for them because I'm cheap. But I mean, outside of like us, like throwing, $10 at Tinder Mahal, like whenever we go,
right,
have a group showing. But like, Are they worth $50? Absolutely. Every single one of them delivers. This show over delivers. Like, if you would have told me that, like, people that have never run a wrestling company, e.g. Tony Khan, and, you know, you got Cody Rhodes, who's, grew up in the wrestling business, but, like, still, he's, like, goddamn our age and never, like, been in that position. He's just been a wrestler in a larger company. You got the Young Bucks, you got Kenny Omega, like, who's, like, kind of an odd sort, and they're just going to come together and create literally one of the best promotions in wrestling history. I'd be like, whatever. But they did it. And, I mean, that might be hyperbole to some people, but they are on the map. They are delivering every single week. They're only growing. They're getting another television show. Like, they're not going anywhere anytime soon. And they're better than most products that exist right now when wrestling is arguably the best it's ever been. I don't know. I got to give them an A.
It's hard for me to argue with anything that Zach just said. What they've done is they've created compelling, for a wrestling fan, can't miss television. I mean, every single Wednesday, I look forward to watching AEW Dynamite. They don't always hit it out of the park, but that's really hard for a wrestling show to do. But I'll say, and I just want to point out, Cody Rhodes, when he was the TNT champion and he had the open challenge, and they would bring in other indie guys, they would bring in guys maybe you've heard of, they brought in our friend Warhorse, they brought in a bunch of people. That is a compelling, fun thing to watch in a wrestling show. They've kept it fresh. They haven't had any of their talent get old. They've made new stars. They've had great matches. It hasn't been perfect. I give it an A-. If a year ago you would have asked us, what do we want out of AEW Dynamite as a television show and as a promotion for the first 365 days of that promotion? There's no way that we could have legitimately, realistically asked for anything else than we've gotten. Jason, I'll allow you to rebut.
Thank you. Where's Scorpio Sky? Where's Sean Spears? Where's Brian Cage? I mean,
what the
if
fuck?
we're going to talk about,
who cares?
No, if we're going to talk
who cares?
about it, no, then you can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. You're talking about
I can have it any way I want.
No, you really can't. Okay, sorry, you have to eat the vegetables too, along with the protein.
I do. Okay? I watch WWE.
No. This is the AEW vegetables at this point. Make whatever vegetable medley you want.
Nah, they're like an hors d'oeuvre.
Disappear. Sean Spears hasn't been relevant since he cracked Cody Rhodes over the head a year ago. Okay? That was kind of the point that people were trying to make that now is starting to come up. Guys are starting to go disappearing on this roster. Maybe it's because they have the one show. Maybe it's AEW Dark is developmental, and that's all it's going to be, which is fine. But guys are disappearing. Talent like these guys shouldn't just disappear.
That's your argument against it? That's your argument against it?
Amongst other things. I mean, look, we've already talked about rankings, already talked about the women's division. Talent disappears. It's WCW light when it comes to booking sometimes. And you said this at least multiple times when you got schmozzes at the end of matches or at the end of cards.
I do hate that. I do hate that.
Dark Order, Darby Allin. I mean, come on. Not all character development is good character development.
Of course not.
Dark Order should have been the way they are right now from the jump.
But I'm not trying to watch there's no such thing as a perfect wrestling show. There's no such thing. You
guys are giving it A and A-. I mean, damn, it might as well. You guys are basically saying that this is close to perfect as perfect gets.
Oh, I don't think that A- means perfect. I mean, there are. I mean, I would give that. What Zach was talking about, that card with Cobb Ishii that ended with Shingo and Okada. I'd give that an A- too. But that's because I would give fucking Super Troopers an A-. It doesn't mean it's Citizen Kane.
An A. And A is the top mark, correct?
I'm not grading it as like as close to perfect, right? We're grading a first year wrestling promotion. Like, look at the first year of just not even WWF, but just like WWF Raw, right? Like, yeah, it was better than like Superstars or whatever, but I mean, like, half of it sucked. You had a good show every now and then. Like,
now I'm
grading it as a, like, maybe our grading scale like is off, but like, is the first year of a wrestling promotion, like, they have hit it out of the park. Yeah, do they do it every week? No.
Would you agree with that, Jason?
More with like,
look, you guys act like I hate AEW. No. I don't hate AEW. Actually, I like it a lot. It's the show I usually watch before I watch NXT on Wednesdays. Is it an A? I don't think so.
All right. So I
will give you Scorpio Sky just because, like, I don't think it affects the grade overall, but like, I feel like even they know they could do more with Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian. But at the same time, Scorpio Sky was their first AEW tag team champion, which means a lot in that promotion, and he was it for a very long time. Now, Shawn Spears, nobody gives a fuck. Nobody.
No, he's not over. People. He's not over. He's never been over. The only thing that ever got him over was the 10 thing. He's a hack.
Okay. if you want, no, I'm just saying, if you want to go down that road, that's fine. You can call him a hack all you want to. Dare I bring up the Lucha Brothers?
But nobody cares. I like it.
Okay, well then what about the Lucha Brothers? We're going to talk about tag teams and the tag team division where this is a focus.
They've had great matches. They've had great matches.
The best tag team, one of the best tag team matches I've ever seen in that ladder match, like, at the last year, like, I don't know if it was All Out, Double or Nothing, whatever, the ladder match.
Yeah, but was it the best match you've ever seen? That's my Jason Bell impression.
They've disappeared. Inner Circle's gotten way boring now because now they're basically henchmen to Jericho. That's why MJF coming in is a beautiful fucking thing, and we're going to talk about that too. Don't get me wrong, guys. AEW is great. It's just not A.
Fair enough. Let's talk about specifically last night. We got about 20 minutes left. Archer versus Moxley. Okay, you know what? Let's take these. Let's take these in the direction that I want to go, because in the final segment last night, it was Archer versus Moxley, and on NXT, it was Damien Priest versus Dexter Loomis. Dexter Loomis has been underwhelming to me, but Damien Priest to me has been really good in his babyface. I ended up, and I just smoked a little bit of tweed, but I ended up being more interested in the Damien Priest Dexter Loomis match, and that was the match that I watched. What did you guys think? I loved that Damien Priest Dexter Loomis match. I thought that it was legitimately great. I think that Dexter Loomis is a guy that has an interesting, unique character. He knows his character and he plays his character, and him versus Damien Priest was really good. Cameron Grimes getting involved at the end was also funny to me. What did you guys think of that match?
Go ahead, Silver.
Zach.
I think Dexter Loomis is a death gimmick. Like, I'm sure, like, he seems like a talented guy. He's got some moves. Like, he's got some creativity. Like, he has some artistic talent. I hate this gimmick so much. It turns me off of every match that he's in. I really didn't give two shits about the match, especially because I didn't expect him to take the title from him, even though they seem to push him harder than I think they should. It's almost like if Shawn Spears has got to push an AEW. Oh my God, that was below the belt. I'm sorry.
See, y'all ain't shit. Fuck y'all.
He's disagreeing with me, Jason. He's not even disagreeing with you. He's disagreeing with me. Jason, what do you think of the match?
I agree with you, Beer, on this one. I thought the match was good. It's just the booking was weird. It just felt like now all of a sudden Dexter Loomis is getting this title shot, which doesn't really make sense, but whatever, neither here nor there. Cameron Grimes, I think, is an up-and-coming heel. He's just annoying enough to where you just don't like him, and I think you want him to see him get his ass kicked, and that to me is the sign of a good heel. Him getting, in the end, the interference I thought was cool. Johnny Gargano getting involved after the match I thought was cool to set up the Halloween Havoc match. I I've said it before. I've never been a big Damien Priest character guy in NXT. I'm coming around. I'm slowly but surely coming around. I like this match. I just didn't agree with how they got here, I guess, is my biggest problem.
I think the same thing. Like, I think we're coming around because I think he's coming around, right? I think part of it is just him. He's getting better. Like, he's really coming into his own. I'm liking Damian Priest more and more every week.
Yeah, me too. Maybe I was just in that sweet spot, like right after you smoke, like when you feel like everything's cool. But I was a big.
You know what that is? That's whenever you like end up like me, like. Because like that's where I was at when I watched that Dark Tower movie. It was just like I'm willing to accept anything that happens to me right now. And
man,
you're always going back it out now because you made a bad choice.
Oh, he's always going back to that Dark Tower movie because he loved it. And I was looking at him when we walked out of the theater. I was like, that movie sucked.
Dude, I did the same thing. I did the same thing with Avatar. I went and saw Avatar, and we smoked right before we went and saw Avatar, and I loved it.
I've still never seen it.
Watch it again. It's not good. Like I watch it again, like when it came out on DVD, and I'm like, why did I love this so much? It's the worst.
NXT started off with Undisputed Era coming out, sans Adam Cole. Kyle O'Reilly cut the promo almost like he's like the new de facto head of Undisputed Era, and then Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch came out for a tag match, which Undisputed Era won, which makes them the number one contenders to go against Breezango. I got to admit, I was pretty underwhelmed with that Kyle O'Reilly promo. What do you think, Jason?
I got to disagree. If we're going to keep Adam Cole on NXT and Ridge Holland is going to be out for a while, I mean, I like the way that they're at least teasing to go with a possible breakup of the Undisputed Era and Kyle O'Reilly being the leader. I mean, we weren't too far removed from Kyle O'Reilly pulling Fish and Roddy Strong off of, I can't remember who it was, after a post-match beatdown. So, I mean, it's one of those things where I can see, look, man, let me finish first, and then I'll go outside.
I'm talking. You can hear that? I turned the microphone off. I turned the microphone. I can't believe you heard that. I turned the microphone off. I was talking to Reba.
Reba, I know.
We spent a lot of money on those mics. They're really good. They pick up everything.
Jesus, it was off.
No, I don't. I like the Kyle O'Reilly. The only thing I didn't like about the promo itself is the Ridge Holland part, where they were going to say that they were going to take care of Ridge Holland, but he got hurt. But they're still going to try to find out who hurt Adam Cole. That didn't make sense. I mean, we basically know that it was Ridge Holland. It's just he got hurt, unfortunately, in a match where Oney Lorcan, did the suicide dive outside of the ring or whatever. So just stick to that and just, chalk it up to kayfabe. He got hurt. I didn't mind. Like I said, I liked the Kyle O'Reilly promo. I thought it was good. I mean, you don't ever hear from him. He hardly talked for like that first year that he's been in NXT with these guys. I mean, shit, give him a chance.
Zach, what do you think about Killian Dane and Drake Maverick as the unlikely duo tag team of the
thing
day?
is like they're the odd couple, right? Like that's the whole thing. Like we've seen this story, like
yes,
kind of like Beauty and the Beast, tale as old as time. Like we've seen this story like a whole bunch, right? But
this motherfucker's got kids.
Yeah, for real. But like it's not like we've seen this story a bunch, and this is like the absolute worst way to go about it. Like Drake Maverick literally got his job back after he was fired during the pandemic by being an over-the-top excellent babyface on Twitter. And then they come back and they have him do this like huge comeback, and then they just turn him into a nerd. Like this is like main roster like level stuff. Like I hate this storyline because it's the worst way to make an odd couple thing happen.
Wow.
Like we all know where it's ending up, but like don't make the guy such an idiot.
Whoa.
Like
really? You don't like Killian Dane and Drake Maverick together?
Mm-mm.
No, it's not that I don't like them together. Like if they would have done it differently, I don't like the way that they've gone about it. Drake has looked like an absolute fool this entire time. It's because they make baby faces look stupid, And
Amen.
NXT is usually not the way. NXT usually does a better job with this, but he looks like an idiot.
I never want to be called a hater ever again. At least Imperium went over, right?
That was the smart thing. I was almost worried about they were going to double down on the fact that they were going to have them go over Imperium.
All right. JCB, switching to Dynamite. What did you think about Orange Cassidy versus Cody Rhodes?
I liked the draw. I was worried about.
Well, not quite a draw. Oh, yeah, it was a draw, I guess. Yeah,
it was a draw. I was worried about Cody wasn't going to lose, okay? But how was Orange Cassidy going to look was the question. He stood toe-to-toe with Cody, and that's what you could really ask for from this match without having him win the title. So now it can set up a Bill Vegas special if you want to get Darby Allin involved. Or they do take that back. They already announced it 2 weeks from now they're going to do a rematch. So we'll see them run that back. Like I said, I had a good positive feeling coming into this match, and they did nothing to take that away. They basically reestablished the fact that Orange Cassidy is on the rise. He's going to be one of the ones to watch going into 2021 and moving forward.
Two Beer, what you think?
Yeah, I mean, I went into this predicting an Orange Cassidy win, and I was pleasantly surprised with the draw. I think that is an underutilized tactic, and what's really cool about the draw, and they've only done it a few times, and if you go to Friends of BFR on Facebook, you'll see the infographic that I posted that does like an AEW year in review, 54 weeks of Dynamite and pay-per-views, and like how many times they've done a draw and stuff. I think they've done like 3. So to have like a time limit set, especially for a TV match, and then to have it utilized is awesome because it sets up a structure. And then you can also play around with that like New Japan has with G1, where we've had like matches like Sonata and Tanahashi that have gone like 28.5 minutes to where you think that they're going to a draw, but then instead of finishing with a draw, you finish right before the draw, right? So like you can like kind of work on those expectations. Yeah, exactly. And so I thought this was excellent, and it just continues because like Cody's a great champion, and it kind of alleviates the pressure of like I said, I thought he was going to take the title, but then it was going to be a 1-week title reign, which is also kind of I like the kind of spontaneous nature of that, but at the same time, it is a 1-week title reign. So I think it worked very well, and nobody was bummed about it, right? Like it wasn't like a shit finish. Like WWE would have had somebody run in with a DQ or something, and that's tired. This sets up future expectations for more storytelling.
And Moxley versus Archer, real quick, Jason, what you think?
Underwhelming. They left their best match in Japan.
Zach?
I mean, I won't argue that their better match was in Japan. I did like this match though quite a bit. Really came off like two tough guys and did a good job to set up the next stuff. Like I like the Kingston stuff because their last match was thrown together. And they had a good match even on the last one. I think they're going to have an even better match, whether it's at the pay-per-view or whatever.
And that's going to do it for our 3 counts.
1, 2, 3. This is Banned from Ringside.
All right, real quick. The PWI 500 wrestlers came out, or the PWI 500 list came out. Jon Moxley was number 1, Adam Cole 2, Jericho at age 50 is number 3, Drew McIntyre is 4, Naito is 5, Okada is 6, Cody is 7, Seth Rollins is 8, Kofi Kingston is number 9, and AJ Styles is number 10. 11, 12, and 13 are Keith Lee, Brock Lesnar, and Kenny Omega. What stands out to you there? Zach, you said you hadn't heard this list before. You wanted to get your genuine reaction. What do you think about Jon Moxley being number 1?
I mean, honestly, that it sounds pretty reasonable. Like I could maybe like if I looked at it, like come up with some analyses to maybe move somebody like one person above like one other person to like slot them like one above, but like really there's no overarching thing. The only reason, I think the only person that could move 2 spots is Jericho, because I think you could put Jericho at number 1. And he would be the only other person I think that could move 2 spots. Otherwise, I mean, I feel like given PWI's parameters, I kind of know how they operate with that. I think it works pretty good.
Yeah, the criteria for the
list.
ranking is win-loss record, technical ability, influence on the sport, success against the highest grade of competition, success against the most diverse competition, and activity. Jason, what are your thoughts?
It's my first time hearing it. I don't have a problem with it. I was waiting for a name to pop up that would probably be in a spot that I didn't necessarily agree with.
Kofi at 9?
Kofi at 9 is the one, and that's only because of how his title reign ended.
I should point out that this is from July 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2020.
Okay, so like I said, that's the one that kind of stands out where Kofi might be a little too high just because, like I said, the way his title reign ended and what's happened to him since. 9 seems a little high. Outside of that, I don't necessarily have a problem with this list. Drew is probably where he's supposed to be. Moxley feels like he's number 1. Jericho is top 5. I don't have a problem with that. Naito is on the list as double champ, twice double champ. No problem with it.
Number 5, yeah. It seems, this is the 3rd or 4th year that we've talked about this in a row, and it seems like this is the least controversial top 10 that we've seen.
It is that. It is definitely the least controversial one in a few years.
I mean, the top 7 are unimpeachable: Moxley, Cole, Jericho, McIntyre, Naito, Okada, and Rhodes. I mean, that's pretty unimpeachable. Like, those are the 7 probably biggest names in wrestling for the last year.
Yeah, I was going to say it's basically the guys that have set up the wrestling dinner table for everybody else in different organizations. I can't beef with that at all.
Well, that's terrible pod when they put together a good list.
Hey, no, I got the women's list. I just got the women's list.
What's that? What's the women's list?
500.
Please.
Number 1 is Bayley. 2 is Becky Lynch. 3 is Asuka. 4 Charlotte Flair. 5 Sasha Banks. 6 Shida. 7 7 is Tessa Blanchard. 8 is Rio. 9 Io Shirai. 10 Mayu Iwatani.
Well, I'd put Io Shirai a lot higher. That's a lot of main roster bullshit. What do you think, Zach?
That's actually, generally speaking, that's exactly what I thought. Because, what the hell did Charlotte Flair do? Except be Charlotte Flair. You know what I mean? Yeah, Becky Lynch was the top of the company until she left. But she left, pretty much before the pandemic. But it still is within that year. So, she was the biggest star in the entire company. So, absolutely. Bayley has carried it through the pandemic, so understandably putting her above Becky Lynch is fine. But Charlotte should be bumped out for a number of those ladies below, for sure.
I still can't tell the difference between Dakota Kai and that other chick and Matt and Nick Jackson. all four of them could all be the same person to me. I don't know.
That other chick is probably going to have to retire again because she tore ACL for the 3rd time in 3 years. So
yeah,
R.I.P. Tegan Knox. I had very high hopes for you. She was one of my favorite female wrestlers, but I think she should choose another profession, unfortunately, unless she can fight back with it. But dude, I feel like she's just going to get injured again.
Okay. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, but we're almost out of time. I just want to talk about what the fuck are they doing with Lars Sullivan? What is their obsession with this guy? He's not that good. He's never been that good. He doesn't have a cool look, and apparently he has a real problem without being racist, without being harassing to women, and without. It seems like he has a problem online. Any thoughts about that?
I don't think he should have a job.
I'm talking about your boy, Jason.
Man, look, you know how I feel about that motherfucker. I mean, let's call it what it is. I mean, he's a racist, misogynist piece of shit, and they brought him back time after time after time.
It's bizarre. It's almost
no, it's not.
Well,
no,
it's like stubborn though. It's
man, and that's what WWE fans like. They want to see the bigger than life guys with bigger than life fucking personalities. Where here you go, fucking WWE fans. Here's Lars fucking Sullivan. Get your fucking spoon and gulp that shit down.
Yeah.
This is banned from Ringside.
Hey, we got some birthdays this week. Tomatonga is 38. Just incredible. From what?
Tomatonga, that's my dog.
Just incredible. To this day, the worst wrestling name of all time. He's 47. Kenny Omega is 37. Friend of the show, Simon Gotch, is 38. Tony Storm, welcome to NXT. She's 25. Chavo Guerrero is 50. Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, Ayo, is 62. And Butch from the Bushwhackers,
Probably R.I.P.
Probably say that.
He's 76.
Also, the sheep herders were way better than the bushwhackers. So if you guys can go back and watch some sheep herder stuff, it's awesome.
Amen.
Hey, everybody. We know there's lots of podcasts to listen to, so we appreciate you guys listening to ours. For F&B Eatery, for Lucha Chris, for Murray the Man Murray, for Bo Geisman, for Two Beer Zach Pullman,
Cheers.
and for Jason Cornelius Bell. I am Bill Vagey. Everybody get out and vote. Everybody support your local weed dealer. Black Lives Matter. And
double check.
Never forget, boo the heels.